Cooking is fun, especially when you know what you're doing.
I miss it.
Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 617. Fan service leads to fan entitlement. All caps. Thank you, Mr. Steve Shives. Yes, this is a Steve Shives video from, let me see. It is a few months ago in November. It's got about 17,000 views. And, well, I don't know if that's good for a channel with 136,000 subs, but whatever. People like and dislike several people's videos that they subscribe to. Fan service is a bit of a combined word. It's a bit compound. Usually when I think of fan service, I translate that to the 90s and anime. And usually that means panty shots and cleavage shots and girls in bikinis.
The extra volume that is non-canon.
The stuff that fans like, oh, there are cool female characters in this anime. Like, let's see some lingerie. Let's see some shots at the bathhouse or whatever. So that's when I think of fan service. But in general, fan service means whatever the fans want of, let's say, a K-pop star or a baseball player or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever.
It can also be an extra awesome mega scene that does nothing.
Right. It could be, oh, we just want to see the scene between these two guys fight it out for no reason. And the writer or the director will go, okay, we can do it. Why not? And maybe that wasn't a thing 30 years ago, but nowadays, I guess, because of social media, the creators and writers are like, oh, well, we could totally do that, or this is no big deal. So I don't know. I'm really not familiar with how the communication between fans and creators work anymore. And I'm not familiar with how Japan deals with that. Usually, when they go to conventions, there's all kinds of conventions in Japan for anime and manga. They talk very nonchalantly with each other. It's very informal, which is great because that's why you go see these for people. They create the stuff you love, and they're happy to answer questions. So whether they direct
they're all humans.
Sorry?
They're all humans.
Yeah, they're just people, and they love making perverse little stories here and there for their fans sometimes.
But one thing about fan service is that if the creator doesn't make it, the fans will make it anyway. So the only service is that this is done by the creator in the original style. Which
welcomes the ever-present doujin community to make whatever they want, which is actually advocated for by the creators, because that to them is a form of flattery, because you like the thing so much, you spent the time to do the same style of art or the same style of story or the same characters in... There's a few rules regarding that. Sometimes it's not for profit, sometimes they do make money, but it's always for the love of the IP, the love of the story and the characters, which is great, which we can never do outside of fanfiction.net or standard stuff where it's just storytelling. It's never like someone's going to make a Captain America comic.
No way. It seems to be that if it's like a book or like animation, then they allow it in Japan. But if it goes to games, then it's absolutely a no-no. Sure. Case in point is like the Chrono Trigger remake for PC, I believe. Like that got shut down by Square right away.
That was one of the biggest. It was like 98% complete or something ridiculous like that. I'm like, I want to see it. I saw screen caps. I saw the video. I saw the trailer. Brilliant, awesome, 3D, same music, same art style. They made Akira Toriyama's characters in 3D. I was like, this is awesome. Looks amazing.
Yeah, at the time, like all of those like 3D renditions of Akira Toriyama's like Dragon Ball games, like they didn't really get the look, but like that fan-made project got it. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and they just got a cease and desist, boom, toast.
Yep.
Which is bizarre because I was about to talk to Gingaman about was it AM2R, the
Metroid remake for the Game Boy game, yeah.
Right, which apparently was okay. They were allowed to do that. So I was like, all right.
Really? I thought they were forced to remove it as well after a while.
Well, I don't know if it's a marketable product, but it is. You can download it and play it, so it's not gone. Like I can't even check out the Chrono Trigger Resurrection project.
Yes, it had to be erased from the internet.
Yeah, it had to be destroyed. I was like, what? Not even.
But at the same time, I think it happened in 2007. So like the internet was like in baby steps compared to like where it is now.
Yeah.
I remember.
But I mean, like they got like what was that? Like Duke Nukem Forever, the 2001 build of Duke Nukem Forever, and then the 2002 build of Duke Nukem Forever was leaked as well, which is insane. Like all these legends that like how did that game look like? The E3 demo, was that all fake? No, it was all real. It was a way better game than the one that they released in 2012.
Yeah. So yeah, these fan projects do exist, and it's cool that there's enough people that have the skills and passion to do that, because all they are is just kids from high school or university doing this in their spare time and saying, hey, Squaresoft, hey, Enix, hey, Gainax, whatever, here's this thing I made. What do you like? What do you think about? Oh, we're going to shut you down, you crazy kids. So...
Well, if you make a whole Pokemon game that is fully functional and has online functionality with better Pokemon designs than what is coming out from the officials, yeah, I think they're gonna get pissed.
They would probably...
Check out Pokemon Uranium. It doesn't exist.
Oh my god. They would probably look at the legality of how do we hire these people to keep making the project if they can do it.
Oh, you wish. You fucking wish.
Yeah.
They stomped it out. And people have been pointing out in recent Pokemon designs that they look a lot like fan-made Pokemon in very, very many regards.
Yeah.
So they're actually ripping off the fans now because they're creatively bankrupt.
Okay. Here is the Yuri Thraw. Thank you for the tip. Call me whatever aphorism you want. But if you ask me, fans sort of are entitled when it comes to products. Products can't survive without consumers, so the consumers do have a say in the product's creation. And I mean actual consumers, not commies on Twitter. Okay.
I think you can expect a certain level of quality, which is the level of quality you're used to. If I'm a Power Rangers fan, I expect the level of quality of Power Rangers to continue and not drop. If they raise it and that fits, okay. But for example, for something like Power Rangers, a certain trashiness is also part of the whole thing. So you have to be careful. And if you divert too much from that expected bar of quality, you're playing with fire, especially if you lower it. I think that's where fan entitlement is definitely justified.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of fan service, I still think of the anime stuff of like ecchi anime. So High School of the Dead is just pure fan service at times. I'm trying to think. Maybe
the whole thing is a comedy, for fuck's sake.
It's a combination of like, what is this? Why are there zombies? Comedy. Yeah, it's just too silly to take serious. Prison
It
School.
has the best bullet physics of all time.
No, it's the stupidest.
Yes,
it's the stupidest.
Yes. People have made the calculations.
Breasts cannot
be on fire.
Move faster than bullets. I'm sorry. That is the stupidest thing I've seen in a while. I was like, I can't.
Smart. Seriously, people have made the calculations. The air friction would have turned the boobs to crisp.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Well, there's even Shokugeki no Soma, which is Food Wars, which is like people's clothes just blow up because they eat food. And of course I said Prison School. That one's just so goofy and ridiculous that it's kind of hard to take seriously. Then you're like, oh, this is all fan service. It has to be. There's others, I'm sure. Those are the ones that stick out in my head.
Anyone who doesn't believe that the reactions in Food Wars are not realistic, anyone who believes that has 1, no taste, 2, never eaten well.
That's kind of funny because sometimes when I was younger, I used to have a lot of facial expressions. My family was like, "What is wrong with this kid?" And
you had facial expressions
when you eat. Oh yeah, when you eat good food that like a beer that has multiple layers of flavor. Or,
when did you start drinking beer?
Well, the thing is, when I was a kid, I drank everything, but I hated beer.
Perfect response.
Yeah. I was Italian, so we just had everything all at once, right? So I was like, oh, 4 years old, let's have some wine. Sure.
Mamma mia, what is this?
My dad didn't like that.
Gotta disappear.
But my nono or my Italian grandfather was like, yeah, just have some. It's all right. It's okay. It's good. So, but yeah, I did not like beer. Beer was foul and bitter and weird because I like pop and like bubbly things. So
you were more wine kid?
Well, not really, but it was more consumable because it was watered down, whereas beer was just blah, right? It was just straight. So I didn't know that. And then when I got older, then you develop a taste for carbohydrates better, I guess. And you get those sweeter tones, you get the bitter tones and the...
Now you get. We have this in the tea shop that the older folks, the older people they start to drift towards the more strong teas in the black section. So they even want the stuff that's slightly bitter, even though good quality tea is never bitter. But they kind of drift towards that, and we think that in part that may be because their taste buds are just getting worse, and so they need a stronger kick. But generally, taste seems to change slightly over the ages.
I think we just change in our tastes. Even my dad, his taste buds are super sensitive, and because he doesn't consume many carbohydrates, he's on the Atkins diet. So whenever he gets sugar, he's like, whoa. So whenever he has like a drink, like wine, and he loves wine, he's Italian, that has even a small amount of sugar, he's like, ooh, this is too much. This is like, ooh, this is crazy. Or spice, like very sensitive things, like so your body just is either goes one way or the other. I don't know how that works, but yeah, it's confusing when you have a drink you had. Oh, I love this drink, and you had it like 10 years ago. The problem with that is 10 years ago that drink was produced by this company, and now it's owned by another company, and the recipe might have changed anyway. So it could be a combination of different recipes or different taste buds, or you're just getting older. Who knows? Anyway, let's get on. This is Steve Shives. I know he's not the most agreeable fellow, but he definitely has...
I'm surprised he's still active.
He looks like a broken man. And I know he's a passionate fellow for his fandoms, but it feels like something's lost. So hopefully...
Smart. We all saw his wife. We know he's a broken man, and we know why.
Oh, is that why? Okay.
Oh yes.
All right.
Oh yes.
Enough of that then.
When he went from atheism to full blown feminism, we saw her in the background of his videos and the noises she made, and he's under the heel. Simple as that.
Okay, let's continue.
So last month, Halloween movie came out, and lots of people didn't like it very much. I didn't think it was all that great myself, but some people really didn't like it. Some people really didn't like it so much that they started a petition on change.org to force...
Do these petitions worth anything, by the way?
Aside...
I have seen so many of these, but I don't think that they have ever achieved
No, they never do. Aside from making something more noticeable, like with the whole Game of Thrones episode or season 10 petition, like that was like, oh, millions and millions of people signed it. It's like, of course they would. So it doesn't change anything. It just makes people aware of how bad or how good or whatever the problem is aware.
Basically, someone can write an article about it.
Mm-hmm. It's an event of some kind that people will mention in passing. Yeah, that's about it.
All right.
To reshoot the movie. A petition that, as of the day I'm shooting this video, has garnered nearly 15,000 signatures. This petition is one of several to have been created over the past few years. Disgruntled fans have also started petitions about...
Hey, look, you say 15,000. We're talking the internet. This is not in a country, in a constituency, in a town. This is the internet, the Zavaldo. And there's regular tweets that get more up clicks. Steve, 15,000 is bullshit. Irrelevant. This is not even a cuff.
A few examples: the final season of Game of Thrones, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and the current slate of Star Trek shows demanding that they be remade or reshot or removed from whatever canon they belong to. Obviously, none of these petitions went anywhere or are going anywhere. HBO
Yeah, so why would anyone care about a 15,000 one?
isn't going to remake the last season of Game of Thrones. Disney isn't going to remake the Star Wars sequels.
They're lost.
Paramount isn't going to decanonize any of the current Star Trek shows. And Universal isn't going to demand reshoots of Halloween Ends. I don't have a problem with petitions like these because I think they have a chance to actually impact anything, nor do I have a problem with petitions like these because I necessarily disagree with them. Like I said, I didn't think Halloween Ends was that good either. I've never seen Game of Thrones. Everything I've ever heard about it makes it seem like the exact opposite of a show I would like. And
let that sink in, please.
All right, while we're singing...
I mean, I want to watch the Game of Thrones either.
I would love to see a remake.
First seasons are fine. First seasons are great.
I would love to see...
You have Lord of the Rings. Why would you watch Game of Thrones now?
Well, I mean...
Like, it actually has an ending.
This is like...
Yes.
This is like thinking there should be a continuation after Lord of the Rings. Like, what happens in the Shire when Frodo leaves? It's like, what? No, that was never written. Why would we do that?
It gets destroyed.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the raising.
Okay.
It's not fun. It's not nice.
Well, here's a tip that just came in from Bewit 1900. The Virgin Child liquor drinker versus the Chad drink diesel gasoline straight from the gas pump enjoyer. Anyway, beer used to be the go-to drink for everyone simply because it was safer than water. Beer doesn't carry typhus like water often did or does. Oh yeah, there's historical examples of people.
Yes, that is the reason that I have been told by my grandfather as well.
Yeah.
That's why we had...
It's basically
200 years ago it was relevant.
Yeah, even in Italy, we have there's 4 categories of restaurant. The last one is called an osteria, which is basically just a wine bar. But it's not for the higher end people. It's for the lower end people. After they finish their work in the fields or the mines or wherever they come from, they go get a glass of wine. Because that was the only thing that people had that was clean. Not to say there wasn't mountain water, but that was like reserved for the nobles. So, anyway.
I think most of the wailing and gnashing of teeth over the recent Star Wars and Star Trek stuff is unwarranted and way over the top, but I certainly understand being excited to see a particular movie or show and then feeling disappointed when it turns out to be an utter piece of garbage. Yes, I'm talking about you. 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 Yes, I'm talking about you.
Oh, so you do have problems with... Wait, how can you have problems with Star Trek Picard, but not with the Disney Star Wars garbage?
Interesting.
What?
Interesting. He mentions Picard. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there because...
Steve... Picard did the same shit that all this other shit did.
Yeah. This might be just the first season of the Picard. Oh, wait, no, this is the second one coming
it's the
in
2022 season. Yeah, it's for the second. Oh, Steve, is it a double standard you have, or are you not able to realize it anymore after all of this garbage that this socialist religion got into your brain?
Well, I'm glad he's not that brain dead. If he's at least mentioning that Picard is horrible.
Yeah, there's like Steve always seemed like there was a glimmer left in him that wanted to get out, but just couldn't escape. This is the vibe he gave me.
Well, combined with the bias of the whole left-leaning weird Star Trek is only for liberals or something like that. It's like, well, no. So this is nice to hear. He doesn't like Batman versus Superman, Picard, obviously some of the Batman films. So taste, he's got some. It's there. Just clouded by everything else he's got in his life.
Yeah, it's just because of due to this. Throughout all these years, I never managed to have the same disdain for him as for the bread tubers, but instead just this infinite pity that he's just trapped in something that he deep down knows is bullshit. But he can't escape it.
Like he's part of a church that he doesn't want to be in anymore.
Well, he would have to admit, first he would have to admit that, and he would have to admit that he's been living a lie, and he would have to admit that his marriage is garbage, basically an abusive relationship. And what's on the other side? The unknown, infinite freedom, and that is scary. So he remains in the hell he knows. It's a very, very common thing to do, a very human thing to do, sadly.
Well, my opinion of him has jumped up, so that's good. Always a good thing.
Yeah. Steve, still after all these years, you've never heard of me, but after all these years, I still wish and hope you will find the courage to escape your mind prison and become a true atheist once more.
Okay.
I have a problem with petitions like these because of what they exemplify.
Okay.
Because of the attitude that cultivates them, propagates them, enables them to grow.
See, this doesn't bother me. This does not bother me about the personality and the motivations behind it. I care about the actual line by line. Oh, we don't like the show because it's bad. And here's the reasons why it's bad. It's like, you're right. I don't care if you're a jerk. I don't care if you hate everything else I love. You're right on this point. That's why the petition exists. And that's why you're putting your displeasure in a thing that people can click and say, yes, I agree with you. That's all it is. That's all it should be. And if it had more sway, that would be this weird world like entertainment suggestion to, well, Hollywood, do this, which everyone's voting on, as opposed to these 5 other projects or whatever. So
yeah, I really suggest like I'm staying open-minded, like where the criticism itself comes from. Because it's like really nice to like hear like different perspectives on the matter.
Exactly. When we heard about the petition or the outcry of people who lost, what show was it that they ended up making a movie of? It was Josh Whedon's Firefly. That was like, wow, they actually complained, got some executives together, and they petitioned to whatever to raise some money to make this film of this show that everyone loved. So that's
similar happened with Farscape.
Yeah, that's motivation. It's not just, hey, let's just bitch and complain. Let's be creative with our endeavor and do the necessary steps. And that's kind of what tried to happen with Stargate. There were all these petitions and all these people, even the actors were like, we're going to buy it if you can't do it. We're going to do it ourselves. We love this job. And it wasn't just Stargate Atlantis. It was Stargate Universe. It was a bunch of others. And the people who owned the IP would not let it go. So it's this outcry from the fans that I would admit are pretty good. Fans of Stargate are pretty cool. They're not crazy weirdos like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're just very passionate.
Yeah.
They're just expressing it.
That would have solved if the actors had bought Stargate. That would have solved the insane wage problems.
Well, there was a few issues with how they produced the shows and who got paid what. But all the actors that I was aware of weren't moaning about pay. They weren't moaning about screen time. There's no bad blood between the actors that I was aware of. It was got reported on, and we've heard interviews from people from Stargate Atlantis because we saw them on the SaltyNerdPodcast, and they all got along. They all loved this show. They loved working on Universe, as strange as it was, but it was different. We could do this. It's darker. It's moodier. It's more violent. It's more aggressive. It's like, okay, cool. So there is a demand for that, as we saw with BSG or Battlestar Galactica, which is the same tone. And, people want it. People have been asking for Stargate for, 15 years at least now? And nothing. So, same with Konami games, all the Suikodens, the Metal Gears. There's another series, I can't remember who named it. It's also very good to Konami. But Castlevania. But we're not getting them.
Yeah, one problem with Stargate is that SG-1 was lightning in a bottle. I don't think you'll get that chemistry again. It's like the Babylon 5 chemistry. That's something special. You can't recreate that. And that's a bar that's very difficult to reach. You basically need to get just as lucky with the actors and roles that are written.
So I don't...
And you need universe didn't have that, sadly.
Yeah, so
it had some really good actors, but it didn't have this.
So the issue is that he doesn't like the personality this sort of encourages, and I'm like, it doesn't. It's just a petition. People go, yeah, I'll sign that, but they don't think about it because they don't direct that energy anywhere else. So that is, it takes a lot of gumption, bravery, and organization to get the Firefly movie, to get whatever else project off the ground with like the Dune movie that came out originally, the original one from Lynch. It takes a lot.
Yeah, it was chaotic.
Yeah. Just hearing those stories of how it never passed all these interviews and pitches, and it's like, wow, it's amazing it even got made. So that is what I want to see. But I wouldn't hate people for having emotions about feeling entitled or feeling disappointed. You have every right to feel entitled and disappointed about the thing you love when it goes away, or it changes for the worse.
Yeah. Look, he is disappointed about Picard.
Oh, well, I guess he's entitled. He has no reason to have that emotion and feel that way and sign a petition and da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like, dude, why not? Look what happened. Yeah, look what happened with the Zack Snyder film. That got remade or got released or re-released or whatever the hell you want to call the full.
Yeah, that was like the biggest like hack job ever. Like he said, like, oh, it's basically done, and then
it could have been
whole
good.
Year.
It could have been good because the movie we had was so shit that, well, can't be much worse if we see the original. Oh my god!
It's like double the Snyder, half the entertainment.
And people were like, oh, it's so much better. They made a better character out of Cyborg. It's like, yeah, after 3 hours. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem if you don't have your standalone Cyborg movie beforehand and just jump right into your League movie.
Yeah. Well.
Who are these characters? Why are they? Why? What? It's like as if you jumped from Iron Man to Avengers.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Who are these people?
I just remembered that Mr. Ryan Johnson filmed too much movie of TLJ. Can you imagine if he released the Johnson cut of just like
Johnson cut
of like 6?
It's just a phallic reference.
It would be the one time there's a big Johnson involved.
Like 7 hours of just bullshit that is like, why did you make a giant like creature that no one saw? You spent millions of dollars on this animatronic.
You know what?
My favorite would have been the Phantom Menace 4-hour cut. Like
that existed.
Supposedly, some of the actors were saying that like there's like a longer cut of Phantom Menace, but like it was so boring. Like you guys probably saw like the Plinkett reviews, and like there's like a showing of the movie where Lucas and like everyone else from the movie's production are sitting in a dark room, and then Lucas says like, might have gone too far in a few places. That's like the original cut of Phantom Menace.
Oh man, I want to see that. I want to see all these long cuts. I want to.
Oh god.
That's my masochism.
Yeah.
That is where I admit that I have masochism because I'm morbidly curious, and I want to see if in that Phantom Menace long cut there are more scenes that indicate that Darth Jar Jar was maybe a real idea.
Well, like I think like one of the deleted scenes, like he actually dies in the waterfall because like they parked that underwater crawler, whatever, submarine thing in the middle of the city. A very smart idea, by the way. And then it just goes down. They have to like ride rope, and Jar Jar is too stupid to realize it, so he just falls down with the submarine.
Okay.
From the waterfall.
Okay.
Right.
Well, he's a cartoon character,
yeah.
so he survives, of course.
Of course, yeah. He appears in the next scene. But Last Jedi, like I saw like some of those deleted scenes, and because like Luke in the movie says like you're gonna learn 3 lessons, and there's a 3rd lesson in the movie, but it's not shown because it's a deleted scene.
Oh no! Why would you delete that?
Well, why not?
Subverted.
Because you need the free.
We were expecting.
You need the free. If you say there's free, they need to be free.
It's just Luke pulling a prank on Rey, the inhabitants of the island, the caretakers, are in trouble by a local tribe, but then it turns out that they are just only partying. And then
I remember
Luke starts drinking and says like, haha, you fell for it. Like it's kind of like Ryan Johnson doing a self-insert through Luke.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't notice you jumped to TLJ. I've seen that thing, and I think that should have been there.
Yes, with the tone of the movie, it would have been just like right
and
on.
It's more of an actual lesson because it teaches. Don't just trust the first fucking story that somebody tells you about something being good or evil. You stupid,
kind of relevant to the rest of the movie.
All right, here's Drunk Driver Writes Now. Steve Shives, this is a throwback. I remember the high point of his career being the guy in Twitter who blocks everybody, and he called Lacey Greens traitor because she dated Chris Reagan. Leftists are not atheists. They worship at the altar of socialism. Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say...
yes. He got converted without his knowledge.
I was about to say...
Because socialism does not admit it's a religion, but it fully acts like one.
Well, it's actually actively against religion in the...
It says that so that it gets rid of all competitors and then is the only religion left while claiming that there is no religion. But it itself is one. It has all the hallmarks of one, all the elements. It even has a god. It just doesn't name it.
Okay. Anyway, let's get into the psychology of petitions that Steve just does not enjoy.
With the entitlement of fans who make and sign and share petitions like these. And the petitions aren't the only forms of expression for this fan entitlement. As we all know, Zack Snyder still trends on Twitter every couple of days for no reason other than his most cultishly devoted followers just can't fucking let it go. And look, up to a point, I understand. I get it. I even expect it. Many of us now live in an on-demand world.
Okay, dude, but you're a fan of Star Trek. Like, how is it any different than some guy, hey, guys, I like Zack Snyder, and he goes on Twitter and says, I like Zack Snyder when he did this in the film and made that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with talking about your fandom 10 years later. Who cares? What's the problem? Aren't you wearing one of those Star Trek hats from, like, the formation of the... what is it, the Federation or something, the symbol? Like, what are you doing, dude? That's like a 40-year-old idea. Why are you wearing that hat? Are you passionate still about this geeky thing that...
No, he just never takes it off.
Like, what is... Oh my god, there's Zack Snyder trending. It's like, yeah, that happens every, 4 days on Twitter.
Maybe it's glued on his head.
Like, he gets it, but he doesn't like it. It's like, why? Why? You have the same reasoning behind your fandoms. Why do you dislike Picard? I'm sure there's a guy on the opposite end of the world with the exact opposite opinion why Picard is so good. Why is that hard to grasp? I don't see why. Anyway.
Thanks to his and wireless high-speed internet, we can watch the TV shows and movies that interest us and skip the rest. It's not just entertainment either. If I'm hungry, I can pull out my phone, tap on Grubhub or DoorDash or some other delivery app, order from a local restaurant, and have someone bring it to me. I can eat whatever I want, and I don't even have to leave the house. And if I do want to leave the house and I need a ride, I can
It's stealing your food analogies.
And have someone come pick me up.
Is your wife not cooking for you?
And take me wherever I want to go. It's effortless. It's convenient.
Yes.
It's really easy to get used to. We humans have a natural...
Steve, you're married.
What's the argument?
One of you should be cooking real food.
People have adapted to people whining on the internet. Yes, Steve, we have. We get over it. What's your point? He could have argued about war. War is horrible. We just see it as another news item. You're right, Steve. We do.
What's that to do with Picard?
It's just... It's convenient. Yeah, wasn't that guy the last video we watched talking about convenience with art? It's so convenient we don't think about it because it's designed to be for a genius or for an idiot because it's made by geniuses or whatever. Like, yeah, That's right. We think of art as something ergonomic that works, that's fast, not many moving parts. It does the job, and that's what it's supposed to do.
Have I missed the part where he transitioned to this topic, or what?
He just
is he
brought it
trying
up.
to illustrate it?
No.
Something with that?
No, he made a bad analogy. No, he's running with it.
Okay. Steve, if you need someone to cook for you, get a new wife.
Act as though the world revolves around us to begin with, and shit like this, as useful as it is, only exacerbates that tendency.
Of what? Ego? What are you talking about?
This is so confusing.
I use a cell phone. I sometimes order from Uber Eats. That's true, Stephen. Some of my friends, they use Uber, and some of my friends, they order a taxi, and some of my friends, they call their friends and they go out together. It's convenient. Yes, that's why we have them.
How bad were the Christians that you debated, that you were able to debate them?
Is this the weird, like, because things are convenient, we're entitled to them? Like, no. It costs like $800 for this thing, and then the monthly fee. That's not entitlement. That's responsibility. You can't drop this thing or just boom, there goes $800. What?
The responsibility of not dropping your phone?
I don't like what. What is this guy talking about? Okay.
Get a stove and a pan, and then get some eggs and then scramble them, and maybe.
Well, it's
cut up some
really
onions
easy to like fall into like the laziness that you just like to get takeout, and you never get out of that loop. Like
it costs like 5 times then.
No, really, it's you can fall into that. Like you have like prioritized that like something is more important during the day, so you rather just like leave it and like have the takeout and like take care of that food need of yours.
Oh, sure.
But it is ultimately the way better choice to like just cook for yourself.
Yeah, and of course, when I was really sick, sure, I had to order anyway. But that aside, when I look at prices of ordering food here and what it costs me to cook for the week, it's very close. One day ordering food or a week of cooking.
Yeah,
that doesn't compare.
Yeah. All right.
Of course.
Here's Nick Gurr. Hey, Nick. Why do Steve's lips look like he just got done blowing somebody? And I'm sorry, I'm not taking seriously the criticism of a guy who uploaded a video where his wife scolds and patronizes him for not having enough books written by women in his shelf. What? What?
That is true.
Why is who cares? What kind of silly argument is that?
It's a fact.
There's nothing wrong with having
that happened
with books that are not written by women on your shelf. Who cares?
Yeah, but she did make that complaint while he was live streaming.
Wow. Yeah, that's not a good.
That's what I mean. That happened.
It's not a good relationship, buddy.
Or sit in the background, like with the back to him on her computer, and what's the English word? This snarky inhaled laughter that goes that this like nose fart sound.
Yeah, you imagine
chuckle
dating a lady.
Is that a chuckle?
Who's like, well, who are your favorite female authors? I'm like, well, Agatha Christie and like blah blah blah. It's like, well, does she talk about politics? Like, actually, she does. Yeah, and murder and death and killing and politics is somewhere in there too. It's like, well, you should read more. It's like, no, I'm happy with what I got.
But like everything is political. Then of course they talk about politics.
Yeah, but being made fun of with snide remarks by your abusive wife on your live streams, that's a reason to get divorced.
It's weird.
Not for Steve Shives.
It's my wife.
Well, maybe he believes in marriage.
Well, that's good. See, he's got
a proper Christian.
There you go. He's a real Christian. Follows his vows without thinking about them. He's like, oh, all right.
Growing a custom thing available on demand can make you a more demanding person.
Sure.
Whether you realize it or not. That doesn't make it okay.
That's what the analogy is supposed to be.
Guard against it. But it's understandable. However, not all of the increase in fan entitlement, and I do feel it's gotten worse, but that's just my own sense of it. I haven't studied it scientifically, and I'm not trying to make any sort of definitive statement, not all of it is due to the increasingly on-demand nature of how we consume media. Some of it has been encouraged by the creators of that media, as the level of fan entitlement has...
Okay, wait, dude. There's a difference between fan service and fan entitlement. We just jumped the gun when you started talking about Uber Eats or whatever the hell.
Yeah, and on-demand stuff, dude, that is a thing since we have internet.
Yeah, so
basically.
This is not... He just jumped four ideas.
We didn't need streaming services for that. The moment you had internet in your household, you could have on-demand media if, sail the right seas.
Okay. Let me just read some...
like we all did.
Vladimir, hey, Vladimir, how you doing? Why is there a zombie on screen? Oh, what? That's just Steve Shives. Never mind. Okay. Yeah. GAW, or GAW 004. So this is where Atheism Plus ended up. I really hope not.
This is where it went right instantly. The moment the plus was attached, it was this immediately. That's why I keep saying when the plus attaches itself to anything, it's like the communist flag in the ground of the thing. It's not like the thing anymore. It's now the thing plus communism.
Now it's object-oriented.
Communism.
Oh, great.
In objects.
I'm not instantiating anything. Okay.
No, Steve, if you can afford to constantly order food online, you're not part of the oppressed. You're part of the bourgeoisie. You're the rich. You that need to be eaten.
Here is Zeke High L. How's it going, Zeke?
Oh dear.
Back in the day, watching Bearing.
I disavow.
Bearing Mox. Okay. Oh, Bearing Mox Steve Shives was really funny. Also, remember, guys, everything is political. As a great freedom fighter once said, all within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Oh, F that was Mussolini. Yeah, it was Mussolini.
Yes. Yes, that was actual fascism.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what this all communist, feminist garbage is. Everything must be part of it. Nothing must be outside of it. Nothing must be against it.
Yeah, sadly. If you're not with me, you're against me. That's kind of how...
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, we're now on fan entitlement outside of fan service.
It's just like, I'm still not really getting the angle on this style.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get from fan service to fan entitlement?
I was
completely different subject.
I was
How
hoping,
dare you demand Picard be any different? Be glad what you got.
I was hoping
it got beautiful explosions and
for
shit.
references to the actual fan service comments at the end of Evangelion, where the episodes would be like, "We're going to give you more fan service next episode," and you're like, "Oh, great!" And it's
and you get sketches.
You're like, "Where's?" I don't mind seeing Misato or Suka's panties, but not like that. That's not what I had in mind. So, anyway.
What, the panties in orange too?
Kissing Shinji.
That was not romantic or charming. I was like, oh
like how awkward the air was in the cinema when those Japanese people watched it for the first time.
Thanks, Ano.
In the cinema.
It was really charming. Anyway.
Grown in recent years, so has the amount of fan service. And while fan service has become much more visible and pervasive in the last decade or so, it began trending upward long before that. I'll tell you where I first noticed it. Professional wrestling. Specifically, WCW Monday Nitro, September 14th, 1998. That's the night Ric Flair returned to television after a lengthy absence caused by a real-life conflict with company management. Flair's...
Is Steve reminiscing about the end of his free life before he got married?
He actually liked TV, like watching wrestling, and his wife went, "No, you're not watching wrestling anymore. It's misogynistic or something.
It's too manly. It's too much toxic masculinity.
It's too many hunky men slamming their bodies together. You can't watch that. It's only for me." Tell me, Steve, where was the fan service in wrestling?
Stage with WCW President Eric Bischoff were made a part of the show as Flair walked to the ring to thunderous cheers and reformed his legendary group, the Four Horsemen. This was a big deal at the time. Flair was one of the most respected and beloved wrestlers in the business and hadn't appeared on TV since April of that year. During the months he was gone, live crowds at WCW events all across the country would chant, "We want Flair," sometimes so loudly that it threatened to drown out the announcers. When Flair finally came back on September 14th, he was visibly moved by the thousands of cheering fans and offered heartfelt appreciation, telling the crowd, "I know that the 25 years I spent trying to make you happy every night of your life was worth every damn minute of it."
Why is he made of bronze?
It was quite a moment. It felt organic. It felt real. It was the sort of thing wrestling fans didn't see very often back then. But it became the sort of thing wrestling fans saw a lot more often after that. Today, it's not at all unusual for a wrestler to take the microphone and just gush with appreciation for the fans. Sometimes this is prompted by real-life issues similar to Flair's, and sometimes it's just another part of a prearranged storyline. But whatever the individual reasons, it's something that happens a lot in the present day, but that rarely ever happened when I was a kid. "We step into this ring, and we do what we do for you," the wrestler will say, usually to the appreciative cheers and applause of the fans. It's a message you can find virtually verbatim in recent social media posts from...
Okay, this is not, I mean, do you think...
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, writers who make things, producers who make things, they don't need to get on their soapbox and say thank you. They're obviously very appreciative of anyone who buys their product. I think any artist would be. The fact it's made public is nothing special in wrestling. Wrestling is just a giant soap opera. It's always been that. It doesn't matter if it's in a if you guys ever remember the steel cage matches back in the day, those were real.
It's soap for men.
Are they still there? I don't know, but essentially there was real blood. Like people were getting their heads beaten in by chairs and slammed. Like it was bleeding. Like a lot of guys don't like that. But when it's when it's with breakaway like chairs and tables and like in wood, like that's all theatrical. It's all the illusion of fighting and struggling, and you
can do more epic things.
You can do crazier. Like,
epic looking.
Like I remember when in late '90s it was so acrobatic. It was like all these jumps and flips and spins and grabs, and in the '80s it was all like aggression, like raw. So they obviously have changed. But for anyone to break the fourth wall with, "Hey guys, thanks for coming out here. We love you. Blah blah blah. We're not acting right now. I'm just being honest." Like that's, what do you think every writer, every director wants to do when they get up that Academy Award? They want to thank the fans. They get emotional. That is like, is that it? He just wants a tweet from his Neil Gaiman saying, "Yeah, I really like you guys. Thanks over the years. You're great." Is that all, Steve? I don't need that. I don't need that from Gaiman. I know he's thankful. He's a pretty humble guy to begin with. So, I don't see this as a need. I don't require Rick Berman to "Yeah, guys, thanks for all the love for Star Trek and all the work I gave." It's like, yeah, I don't care.
Fuck your Rick Berman. You ruined this too.
Yeah. Okay, here's Osama bin Lifting. Hey, Osama, how's it going? Oh, damn, professional wrestling. That had some spicy jokes back then. Steve isn't allowed to like that, especially not the crowd chants. Oh, the crowd chants in wrestling, especially ECW back in the day, would get you yeeted from Twitter. Oh. Oh, well. Anyway, let's see where he's going.
Wrestler World Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who shared his gratitude for the successful opening of his film Black Adam, declaring, "Enjoy the movie. We made it for you. And in the end, the only thing that matters to me is sending the people home happy." Not that there's anything wrong with such statements necessarily. It's nice to say thank you. Even if you're a big-time celebrity saying thank you to your supporters. In fact, maybe especially then. But there's a cynic in me that can't help but view these explicit and effusive expressions of gratitude, at least in part, as calculated attempts to win the favor of their audience, regardless of the quality of their work.
You have problems, Steve.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like, they have to do some marketing, and like they probably are paid to do this. But at the same time, like they have the right to do so. How else are they gonna like advertise this movie? Like The Rock is playing the character, besides the reason that like he is probably like the well built for this role, that like he's a recognizable face. So the fact that like he can reach out to his audience that likes movies that has The Rock in them, of course he's gonna do something like this.
He's
Why
one
not?
of the people.
That's like one of the most simplest tricks in the book.
Yeah, but he's also one of the few people that I can believe that when he's saying that.
Yeah.
Because that man genuinely enjoys what he's doing. And what it sounded like in the interviews, all actors say how awesome the movie is, and working together with all the other actors, and how great everything is. But The Rock, I can believe that when he said that about Black Adam. The Rock had fun when he was on Star Trek Voyager fighting 7 of 9 in a cage.
Yeah, the same attitude.
Like, this guy enjoys what he's doing.
Same with Henry Cavill. We know he's being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just get it. Like we see him. He does all the things that we do. He has his own workout routine. Same with The Rock. He has his own workout routine, but he's a guy. He's like, yep.
That reminds me of something. Some of these actors have brought up that the age of great actors is over. Everybody's just the role, just the superhero X, superhero Y, and I don't think that's true. And I think people like Henry Cavill and even Jason Momoa have shown that, because they are recognizable beyond their roles. They're still the big names. Yeah, Scarlett Johansson, same thing.
Yeah, a lot of these characters are very down to earth. They have their own stories that are like, I ran out of gas, I got stranded, all I had money was like $5 in my pocket. You're like, oh, I could totally relate to that. Mm-hmm. And these are multimillionaires, and they have the same problems as everyone else. So yeah, we like those stories. But Jason Momoa is one of those guys who's very down to earth. So yeah, we totally understand where they're coming from. I get what Steve is trying to say though, but I don't see what the problem is. I guess a fan of The Rock would really be gushing and like, oh, it's so sentimental and he's so down to earth. Oh, yada yada, right? But a lot of people who aren't that crazy, you're like, oh, that's nice. That's a nice sentiment for them to say at the end of a work period or the end of the day when the product is done. Good for them. I don't see it as a big deal, but Steve has some insight into this we're going to get into. Okay, here's gay actor Michael Douglas. How's it going, Michael? Not that there's a problem with that. Man, he really can't stop it with the wrestling callbacks, can he? On the real, though, is Steve this bitter and phony that he assumes a sincere moment from somebody is automatically also bitter, cynical, and phony? I don't think
that's what he's just poisoned by his wife. who when she's happy, that is really just sarcasm.
I hope he's playing devil's advocate for this, because it doesn't seem like this is a problem, and I don't think.
Does he look like he's playing devil's advocate? Like, look at Steve's eyes.
He always looks like this. He always looks dead. I don't know. If he says he doesn't like Picard, I'm like, I'm with you, Steve. I don't care how it makes you feel. Anyway. We should keep going. This is interesting for me.
It's pandering. And just like having things available on demand, the more you're pandered to, the more you get used to it.
It's not pandering, buddy.
And the more you come to expect it. Most fan service, of course, doesn't come in the form of actors and filmmakers expressing gratitude to the audience on social media. It's embedded in the work itself in the form of Easter eggs, winking jokes or references inserted into a work for the amusement and or appreciation of fans.
No, it's done for world building and to establish lore. You're not doing it, well, unless it's blatantly obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But you need that. You need to establish timelines, characters, places, things, events. Like that's how you connect the dots.
Yeah, the Starbucks cup is not there on purpose.
Right.
And neither is the water bottle by the chair.
Like imagine if in episode
Anyone
9...
see that?
Yeah, but imagine if episode 9 of Star Wars, it wasn't Palpatine, it was some other Sith Lord. You'd be like, who? Who's this guy?
Darth Nihilus is back.
Darth
What?
Bob. You're like, who's Darth Bob?
I
am the real Sith Emperor. Like, what? Who? When?
I have
Where?
been creating cinema since the beginning.
I am the
Some call me Roberto of Cinema.
I created Darth Sidious. I am Darth Schwab.
Like people would be like, what? Okay, this is new. Where'd this come from? It comes out of nowhere.
Like a lot of people were theorizing that Darth Plagueis would come back.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the real ellipses, the real closing thing.
Yeah, but even with Palpatine, you could use him, but you have to explain how the hell he got there. You can't just say, well, I guess he survived. What?
Palpatine was a mere clone of mine.
I guess they can just do that now. What?
It's the bugs.
I was only controlling him with the Force. He was but an empty puppet. And I was not very good at playing marionette. That's why he was always sitting in a chair.
Oh God. Anyway, it's not pandering, sir. It can be, but not in general. You have to give me specific examples. So,
recognize and appearances from fan favorite characters and plots contrived in such a way to be pleasing to the audience, or at least certain segments of the audience.
Such as?
Broadly speaking,
it doesn't really connect. Like I haven't seen Black Adam, so I don't really know like what he means by this. But like this is like completely different. Like he keeps jumping from topic to topic. Like first it's about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson like advertising the movie that he was in, which is a completely legit thing to do. And now he's like bitching about that. Like, oh well. Seeing the movie was made in a way to appeal to those specific fans. Like, when? What exactly?
Yeah, like imagine.
Can you give an example?
Imagine if in Episode 8, Star Wars again, that it wasn't Luke. It was some other no-name Jedi. You'd be like, who's this?
Jake?
Okay, that's another example. What if it wasn't Princess Leia, right? What if it was some other random princess that was also leading a rebellion? You'd be like, okay, whatever.
I mean, that would be a little bit better because at least it wouldn't be the same character. So it wouldn't be a character assassination that we have seen.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know what exactly he's... Like, you expect characters that would appeal to the audience. So it's like, okay, yeah, I want to see what would happen to Luke 30 years later. That'd be great. Unfortunately, the story sucked. So I'm disappointed. But I'm still excited to go see it because I want to know. So getting me in the seat is marketing. The story has to work out. And if you give me the stuff I like, which is lightsabers, space battles, the Force, then great. That's what Star Wars is. It's not pandering. That is literally the product you're selling. It's like McDonald's stopped selling hamburgers. It would go out of business. That'd be crazy. That'd be stupid. Like you have to give the audience what it expects 99% of the time. This is silly, Steve. Again, I want an example from him. I don't know what he's talking about.
Fan service refers to the aspects of films and TV shows and works in other media that are included because they've been calculated to, as The Rock might say, send the people home happy. And here's the thing.
Example.
If it's done right, in a way that isn't intrusive or obnoxious or distracting, and if it's done in moderation, there's nothing wrong with it.
Example.
When it's done ham-fistedly and excessively, fan service not only compromises the quality of the stories in which it appears, it sends the message to some fans that they have the right to demand that the media they
Is he just talking about member berries?
to their liking.
I don't know.
Hence, The
He's just
petitions I
rambling.
at the start of the video, and the relentless, aggressive, and apparently never to be satisfied campaigning from Zack Snyder cultists. First, they wanted the Snyder Cut of Justice League, and then when they got that, they immediately moved on to demanding that Snyder be hired to direct more Justice League movies, and that he alone be allowed to direct future super...
That was a pretty big split. There were people who were completely enamored by that crap.
Yeah, but who cared?
And there were a lot of people who said, "Holy shit! What? Get that man out of here!"
This is not a big deal, buddy. There's lots of dumb fan groups on Facebook that do stupid shit and ask for things. There's nothing new.
Yeah, there are people who like The Last Jedi for some reason.
Yeah.
Whether they honestly like it or whether they just claim to like it for political reasons is another question. But they do claim that. And
this is normal, though. This is like no different than someone from McDonald's or going to McDonald's. I wish you guys made a chicken burger, and they did. And that was that.
That exists for everything. Just look at the more obscure Reddit groups that should not exist according to the terms of service, but they do.
Oh.
I won't name them because I'm getting nightmares just thinking about them. It's like on rotten.com levels of depravity. So there you go. Steve, thanks for finally bringing an example, because you've been rambling for 10 hours without much of any substance, just in generalizations. And I wonder, where's all the stuff you've learned from your atheism days, or have you never learned them in the first place? Because this is now not how you make an argument. You have a concrete problem with things, so you need to make it. You need to make the argument at the specific examples, not just a few select ones about one wrestling event and a random number of shows that you disagree with after all, and now bring up, what was it? I already forgot again.
Well, he gave the example of it can be done well or it can be done ham-fisted. And it's like, yeah, it's mostly done ham-fisted, but that's like when I think of episode 8.
TLJ was ham-fisted. The whole Disney Star Wars movies were ham-fisted. So, Steve, you are not putting the bar equally on everything.
Well, okay, look at Canto Bight. There's a lot of dumb moments in there, and one of the ham-fisted moments was when Rose is talking about slavery or money or
every scene with Rose's ham-fisted.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that has nothing to do with member berries or Star Wars. It's just her talking about capitalism. You're like, what does that have to do with anything? So, but that's not why you went to go see Star Wars, to see some Asian chick talk about money. It's stupid. So, I mean, like, give me an example specifically that's done poorly, Steve, and we'll.
I think flying around the Redis, the dumb thing, with a modified TIE interceptor for bragging rights and 2 TIE fighters to shoot out the bridge in a surgical strike. That was ham-fisted. Because even the standard Star Destroyer has, I don't know how many hundreds of TIE fighters inside, because that's a carrier. And behind and the thing that is chasing the Redis is a fucking super hyper mega infinitum carrier that has several ground and space armies on board, yet what launches is 2 TIE fighters. I call that ham-fisted. That's bad. Right. Steve, you're dumb for not calling that out.
Here is Linkara's long buried fetish. Speaking of Zack Snyder, remember the time he appeared on the Geeks and Gamers charity stream and then threw them under the bus and implied they were racist? That alone would have been enough for me to want this man to never direct another film. That was weird. I do remember that, yeah. He was talking about, did he specifically name them? I know he was talking about in general. But, yeah, it was a bit awkward because they were actually on, or one of them was actually on the stream. So, yeah, whoopsie. Don't attack a fellow streamer. There was a bunch of people on there. I don't think he was aware of all the people on there. Anyway, I want to keep going with Steve here because he's getting somewhere. I just don't know if he knows what he's talking about at the end of the day.
And I'm sure at some point they'll also demand that the negatives of all non-Snyder-directed superhero movies be piled up and burned if they haven't already. This sense of audience entitlement extends beyond movies.
So it sounds like the left. They only want the things they like and burn the rest. Thanks, Steve. That's great.
Yeah.
And shows to live events. In 2010, Steve Martin was being interviewed on stage at the 92nd Street Y in New York City. The talk was supposed to focus on Martin's newly published novel, as well as his experiences as an art collector, but midway through, the interviewer was handed a note instructing her to shift gears and instead begin asking Martin about his acting and comedy career. Apparently, members of the audience had been emailing the Y during the event to complain about how boring they found the talk, demanding that Martin be prompted to talk about things they considered more interesting. In certain venues, this kind of audience participation isn't such a problem and is even encouraged. Remember I said that pro wrestling fans had been chanting for the absent Ric Flair for months before he made his return to WCW in 1998. In 2013, fans of the WWE did the same thing, only even more insistently on behalf of Bryan Danielson, known as Daniel Bryan at the time, a phenomenally talented wrestler who the fans, rightly I think, regarded as being underutilized by the company. As a result of the vocal and relentless support of the fans, Danielson won the WWE World Championship in the main event of the following year's WrestleMania. But
so the fans did a fan entitled thing, got their fan service, and you're happy with that?
I don't.
What?
I would not compare wrestling to anything else. It's its own little fake world of.
Do I need to get drunk to understand this, man?
I don't know why we're translating it back to freaking wrestling. How did we go from movies to wrestling?
I don't fucking know. I think
it's all about wrestling, by the way.
I think he misses his youth. But Steve, I will pour a glass of whiskey for you, and raise it to you, because at least I think in the last 10 years you don't look like you aged, and that's a good thing. You still have a chance. Get out of your prison. Get out of your bloody prison.
Maybe he's wearing. I don't know. Maybe he's got like good keto diet going and looking.
Or maybe his wife is just eating everything and not leaving him with any of the.
There's no food.
And no, she eats all the junk, the unhealthy stuff, and leaves him all the healthy vegetables. So, Steve, this is to you. May you get out of your mental prison.
All right. Well, I'm still waiting for a solid sapient point here, but wrestling, okay.
Not every entertainment operates like this, nor should it. If you go see a production of Hamilton and get pissed because Burr wins the duel at the end, sorry, spoiler alert for Hamilton and history, you can feel however you feel about it, but it's completely unreasonable for you to demand that the show change to send you home happy. When you buy a ticket to a show or a movie, you're buying the right to see the work, not the right to have the work meet your expectations or demands. I've seen movies that I haven't liked, a lot of them. I've gone into a theater or clicked on a title on a streaming service and settled in with high expectations, only to end up dismayed and disappointed. Seeing the second Star Wars prequel, Attack of the Clones, when it opened in 2002, comes to mind. One of the most deflating and depressing movie-going experiences I've ever had, although Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice comes close. And yet not once did the thought ever enter my mind, hey, all of us who didn't like this movie should petition the studio to make it again. That's not how this...
I think we want it decanonized. I think people wanted that. I can't recall exactly what...
Which one?
With the prequels? No.
No? Which one was it?
Not with the prequels.
Oh, okay.
It was a sequel trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what. And I said that a couple of weeks after I got out of TLJ. Like I needed time to process that. I knew something was wrong with that movie massively. And it took me a while to really process it. Some things I saw in the movie, like the Rose Tico scenes, especially the one at the end, that made absolutely no sense. How the fuck did you get back to the base across that giant field of salt? That Like you walked, you dragged her or something. How? And the whole shit. That was so broken. I couldn't wrap my head around like what the fuck did I just see? But it took a couple of weeks for me to process the whole movie enough, because there's so much crap in that makes absolutely no sense, and it is counter Star Wars. It's counter. It's not Star Wars. It's counter Star Wars, and that made me think that within 10 years, this movie, if not the whole Disney trilogy, will be decanonized because it is impossible to make Star Wars while this stuff exists, because it just breaks too much. And I wasn't talking about that the fans demanded or something. I just saw it as a necessary company move, as an economic move. Like, if we want to keep using this franchise, if we want to do something with it, these movies, especially this movie, needs to go the way of the dodo. It must have never happened, and we will treat it like the dinosaur episode of Voyager. It just wasn't there, and then we will make other Star Wars. The problem is that all of this other shit that they shat out during that time in video games, and now with some Mandalorian stuff as well, that they reference some things from the Disney trilogy, and that is a giant mistake. But I didn't, as I said, I didn't think that would be the fans calling for it, though that's, I guess, a likely thing. I just thought, about 2 weeks after I saw the movie, this needs to go, otherwise Star Wars is dead. And right now, Star Wars is quite dead. How many years later is this now? 5? 4 or 5?
6.
Oh, God. Steve, you're wrong about Star Wars.
Let's keep going.
Work is not guaranteed. It never has been. And anyone who doesn't understand that or refuses to accept that is acting like a child. From where I'm standing, the Star Wars prequels, at their best, are way, way shittier than the sequels.
And this is where you show your fucking retard. Fucking hell.
What?
No.
He thinks
Fucking
the
hell,
prequels are worse than
Steve,
Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams. Is this guy for real?
It's a competition between like someone who downright hates the foundations of Star Wars and the creator of Star Wars who is disillusioned of what to do with the franchise.
Who was bumbling around.
Yeah, but
I'd just say Lucas was bumbling around.
Yeah,
at least like Lucas at his worst, like he still didn't hate what he created.
Yeah.
He wanted to change some aspects of it, but at least he didn't destroy the foundation.
Yeah, he just needed better advice, more advice.
He was never challenged. That was the problem.
That was all. And that happens to a lot of people when they don't get challenged. When they get too much free reign, when they don't get boundaries set, then they just start to make shit. Like Zack Snyder.
Yeah, like George Lucas has risked his entire livelihood on the success of The Empire Strikes Back. Like, a lot of people, like, they exaggerate that, like, well, he was only, like, an idea guy and he was, like, sitting in the background. No, like, he was very close to bankruptcy. Like, he had to, like, get, like, some of those scenes, like, out at the very end. But, like, he managed to, like, cut it and sell enough of merchandise to, like, get the money back. But, like, oh boy. That was probably like his downfall as well for the Return of the Jedi, because he was like so sure of himself that he can make like a better sequel. But at least like some of those ideas like translated well, like the things with Vader and Luke. But
Empire Strikes Back is such an unconventional sequel.
Yeah,
it is in its structure, in its story, in everything, in every aspect of it. It is nothing like the first movie.
Yeah, but this is like
it's a completely different type of story.
If you're looking at
storytelling,
Episode 7's a carbon copy of 4 with some bullshit along the way, Episode 8 is I have an ego. I'm going to randomly change things and screw around with my $200-300 million budget. And then the guy who did episode 7 is like, oh shit, I got to make sense of this crap. And I
have to jam in all the stuff I wanted in the middle movie that I didn't get to make in order to get the story that I actually wanted to do. Therefore, and have to invalidate the previous movie as well because nothing works otherwise. And it's on that in the technical sense, there are similarities to Zack Snyder's Justice League with the crammed in Cyborg story. Because that takes up extra space that wouldn't be there if a movie that, in the case of DC, didn't exist before, while in the Disney trilogy, if Abrams had the second movie as well, he could have crammed that stuff in there, and then the third movie wouldn't be so convoluted. Because seriously, you can just take out TLJ, and there's nothing lost at all.
So we could end it here.
You don't know. You will barely notice that movie missing because it does nothing.
So we can end it here. This is a pretty damning statement of opinion regarding his taste. I thought he was on some reasonable path to wisdom. Now he's just wow.
That just shows, dude. You got stuck with the critique for the prequels. But you don't understand what makes a good movie or a bad movie. You just didn't like Attack of the Clones. You can't see the beam in the eyes of the Disney movie. That is horrible. And maybe that also explains why you could bitch about Christianity and the Bible in your atheism phase. Because that was a popular thing to do, and that was what everybody understood. Because God, contradictions, God, authoritarian interpretations of ancient mythological stories. But you can't see the same beam. You can't see the beam in the eye of socialism, which you plainly adopted.
I guess we could say in episode 2, the biggest fan servicey thing would have been Yoda, where he pulls out his lightsaber and starts spinning around and fighting Dooku.
Yeah.
But that was unexpected. No one had any idea or any...
There was an actual subversion.
People are like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know Yoda could do that or he has the ability. And a lot of people thought it was unnecessary, but a lot of people loved it because it's freaking awesome.
It's not even an uncommon trope in martial arts movies, in Asian martial arts movies, where the ancient master is just handing out wisdom all the time, and is moving very slowly, like the old man that he is, and then he has to fight, and he is a really, really tough opponent because he knows all these techniques inside and out, and whether he does it elaborately with uncanny dexterity, the other word I'm looking for, or whether it is like an actual master who is barely moving anymore, but does all the techniques so perfectly that he doesn't need these elaborate movements, but he will still beat all the enemies with less skill, less knowledge, less wisdom than him, even though he's old and slow. And Yoda is basically a variant of that, because he's faking to be this old master who's just beyond his fighting age. But that's just an act in order to lure in enemies. Dooku knows that Yoda can do this. He's not surprised. The audience is surprised. And the children are happy. Kung Fu Panda did the same thing with Master Ogwai, the turtle, because he can fight on silly levels as well, while he's geriatric and shaking all the time, can barely keep his hand still as he's pointing at Poe. But really, he can fight like the master he is. That's the part of it's a trope. It's an actual trope thing. Whether you like it or not.
So, do you guys want to continue, or we can stop here if you want? It's up to you.
I wonder if he gets
to somewhere. He has no relevance, and like he can't really get to his point. How about we watch the last minute?
No. He's just starting to talk about the Disney movies. I want to at least know whether he has a he has an argument for why the Disney movies are good.
Okay, all right. It has nothing to do with fan service, though, but okay.
At their worst, I didn't get to demand a do-over for the prequels and for the sequels. You fucking crybabies.
What?
It's a level of arrogant presumption I still
You can demand whatever you
wrapping
want.
my head around. It's like going to a baseball game and demanding your money back if your team doesn't win.
What?
No, actually, it's worse than that.
What? No.
It's like going to a baseball game, seeing your team lose, and then petitioning the league to erase that game from the record and demanding that
that's
it
not
be
how
played over again.
Canon works.
Like that, it has happened like with horror movies, for example, like the Halloween movies.
Yeah.
Like it has like how many continuations there are of that? Like it has nothing to do with like the previous ones. Like at least there has to be like a 3 or 4 different timelines for that. And that not only recently like it came out like a sequel that's supposed to be like a sequel to the very first movie. It's just like
And Steve, that is one of the worst false equivalencies I've heard in years. Those things do not even remotely compare. You really your if you ever learned anything in your atheism days, you must have forgotten all of it. To say such stupid things.
really?
Also, thank you, Ramirez, in the chat. Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid is also such a character.
Remember when Disney decanonized all of the extended works of Star Wars?
But you can't do that. That's like going to a football game and then telling them like that they should erase things that happened before.
Oh, we have absolutely no material to draw from. That's why it's so hard to write a good movie. That's why TLJ is the way it is.
Until Johnson decides to reference one of the books that has been decanonized, and you're like, oh, we're playing this game now. Okay.
Well, what I hate the most about the modern Star Wars is that like there's the Filoni and shit that like he does with the Clone Wars and like these new shows. Like he grabs like small bits of the EU that I really liked about the Knights of the Old Republic, and then like he makes his own version about it, and then now it's the part of canon. It's just like, please. So we have to like this half-assed version, and we can't have like anything else. Like, can there be like 2 parallel storylines that like have like nothing to do with each other and just enjoy like that? Because like comic book movies and like other like fantasy stuff have been going on for this for like a while now. That like that like it's different continuation, so like you can be like completely separate from each other.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be like in the same timeline.
Right now, he is not making much sense, but if you want to keep going with this point, we can. Here's a super chat with GAW004. Thanks again. Hi, Smud. The Crowder v. DW stuff could be a good vid. I don't know what DW is, but okay.
We have a
Daily
suggestion
Wire
channel.
Sorry?
It's the Daily Wire, like Ben Shapiro's political.
Isn't that just the contract stuff? That's boring.
Yes, like
It's
Crowder is not gonna be on Daily Wire.
Alas? Is that bad? I have no idea.
No, like I think like he demanded like more money, and then they didn't agree with it. It's like if you like political stuff, then,
is this drama? What is this? I have no idea.
Drama,
really.
yes.
Okay.
Drama.
I don't even think it's drama. It's just standard
It is
contract
drama.
stuff.
Don't worry, it is
That's
drama.
boring. That's
God.
boring. Anyway.
Also, we have a suggestion channel.
Yes. Go right ahead, and we will filter all your suggestions with everyone else and vote on them. Actually, no, you guys vote on them. So if you want to argue in the casual chat, whatever. Hey, guys, please vote on this. Then go right ahead. You have every right to do that. So,
And then we will veto it and do something else.
maybe.
Or Matthias finds us like a video that we have to watch, and that's it.
Oh, God. Anyway, we're going to keep going
Like today.
for another minute and see what he's talking about his baseball analogy.
Again. And if necessary, until your team wins. My favorite artist to have ever worked on a Star Trek project is Nicholas Meyer. He directed and co-wrote Star Trek II, co-wrote Star Trek IV, and directed and co-wrote Star Trek VI. And Nicholas Meyer has been saying for years that art is a dictatorship. In a 2017 interview with IndieWire, he said, "You don't have to watch it. You can turn it off. You cannot buy a ticket. But if you go to see a movie that I make or read a book that I write, then it's mine. And you either sign on for the cruise or you don't." The article that...
Okay.
I wish your
That's
fucking
completely
SJW
different.
friends... I wish your fucking SJW friends would leave it at that as well and not demand that we buy their bullshit.
Remember was it Gaiman? I know Mr. Superman said that Henry Cavill talked about how it belongs to the fans now. It's their thing, it's their opinion, it's their right to feel whatever they want.
Yeah.
This idea that the creator owns the thing is only in a legal sense. Once it's out in the public, it is owned by the public. They bought it, they consume it, and they can have whatever opinion they want.
Yeah, you have the creator right, but you do not have the right to dictate whatever anyone thinks or feels about it.
And we could look at the 40K universe, and as bizarre and big and confusing as it is, you have the fans end up doing better work than the creators at times with their ideas and their stories and their gaming. So this...
And part of me thinks that it wasn't just for legal reasons and greed that Games Workshop did their super license shenanigans that destroyed fan works, or the creation of fan works in particular, but that very reason that fan creations made more sense and got more beloved than the actual stuff, to the point where authors of the official books started working with fans on parodies of their own books, as seen with the spin-off series to the parody of If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device, which is If the Emperor Had a Podcast. There's only 4 episodes, sadly. That's when then the Games Workshop license shenanigans happened. They looked at the book The Last Church by Graham McNeil, I believe was the author, and he helped work on the podcast that is about his book.
Right.
And the podcast is a parody analysis of the book with the characters of the book arguing about the events that happened in the book. And it's hilarious. And it makes way more sense than anything Games Workshop puts out.
Yeah, this is no different than when we see 50 Shades of Grey and all these other stories that are made popular. You could argue even Milton's Paradise Lost is fan fiction of Adam and Eve, the creation myth. So there's plenty of examples that creators or fans of original works can do their own thing, but it doesn't stop fans of unoriginal work being able to make their own and being successful. So yes, the creator, the producer, the director, the guys who worked on it, it's their baby. They produced it, but now it's out into the world to be consumed by the audience, and the audience or the consumers will dictate whether or not that will have any life. So if no one likes the Neapolitana pizza, well, guess what? They're never going to make those anymore. So it just, the fans dictate what happens next. And that's why we have all these cancellations on Netflix. With, I think last year, the entire seasons, just one season of each show just gone. They no longer exist. And for whatever reason, the fans didn't like them. Or, I don't know, Netflix is just not interested in making a lot of money. I don't know what Netflix is doing these days. So, strange but weird. There's lots of ways that fans do influence future works, if at all. So I'm just like I'm just thinking of all the other things like on Broadway. I've never actually seen this. It's called Wicked. It's basically a story about the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz, but it got turned into a whole other side story and musical. I'm sure it's a book.
She's the protagonist now.
Right. Yeah. Like
we need to be sad for.
Yeah, we could talk about all the works of Homer, because there's a lot of speculation on Homer was not the original creator, or he was, and everyone else copied him. So we have the Iliad and the Odyssey, and there's the Aeneid, which is basically the same concept, only written by someone else. This happens with video games, where someone makes a new technique and first-person shooters, and everyone else starts using it. I don't know. This is to say that we don't have influence, or creators don't have influence, or fans don't have influence after something's made. It's all about the marketplace. So, gonna have to disagree with Mr. This is Meyer here. Fans or the audience dictate the life and longevity of a piece of work, and that's why we still have Shakespeare. If everyone's still watching and reading Shakespeare, it's not because the Shakespeare estate is still publishing new Shakespeare books. It's because the fans liked it.
There's lots of authors who history has forgotten.
Or books that are great that no one is aware of because the fans aren't intelligent enough or even aware of some of these things.
Because we're not smart enough to appreciate them.
In some cases, I have to admit, even I'm not smart enough to read some books by some authors which are brilliant. And I know they're brilliant, but I just can't digest them because they're so complicated.
Can you give an example?
Anything by Greg Egan, I think. A lot of his work is so because he's a PhD in physics and he talks about string theory. My brain just cannot understand what he's talking about sometimes. But even dumb shit, like what's that really dumb fanfic based off, was it Harry Potter? What, My Immortal? Like that is so dumb and so bizarre, but it became hugely popular for being one of the worst ever fanfic books ever that that people quote outside of The Room. Like imagine The Room, if it was a serious drama, no one would care. It'd be like, yeah, it would be like, yeah. But because it's so over the top bad, it becomes its own thing. It's become its own creation, all because of fan reaction. So to think that, the dictator is the author or the creator, it's like, yes, you could argue the writer is the dictator of everything, but it's the fans that make a series, the fans that make it popular, the fans that make it worthwhile and live long as it could. And that goes for everything. That goes for bad stories, good stories. It becomes popular. It becomes popularized even. I think Tommy Wiseau would have a different lifestyle if The Room was not as popular as it was.
He would have probably made more movies like that.
I'm trying to think what else he did make other bad movies, but I'm just saying it's just that stuff.
All you need is the drive of Neil Breen.
That is something else. I'm not sure what Neil Breen is yet. I've not learned about him enough to figure out how he operates, but people like it because it's so bad. Yeah, you're right. Same idea. Or maybe he's just so motivated he doesn't give a shit. He just keeps going. Hard to say. Anyway, I disagree, but we can keep going if you guys want. We can stop here. Go to the last few minutes.
I feel like I'm gonna drop up probably in 5 minutes because I just feel like this is like meaningless.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I hope Steve would bring up actual arguments, but it's just the same drivel.
There we go. We're at 18 minutes. All right.
Is that while we have every right to feel however we feel about the media we consume, we don't have the right to demand that the creators of those works cater to our every whim.
Why not?
We're free to not like things. We're free to voice our opinions, and we should.
So please change the thing because it sucks. Thanks.
What?
Bye.
Hopefully in ways that are articulate and constructive. But
TLJ, we've been bitching about.
I can just say I don't like it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
that's enough.
We've given answers and solutions on how to make TLJ coherent, intelligible, meaningful, dramatic.
Yeah.
Instead, we have been ridiculed and Ryan Johnson just completely turns his back on any kind of criticism, and he says all of them are unfair.
Yeah.
How do you deal with someone like that?
He's a narcissist. You deal with someone like that by putting him over your knees, slapping his ass until he can't sit for a month, and then defenestrating him.
Okay. Well, but yeah, it's it completely flies over his head. He doesn't care. His trilogy is never gonna be made.
Yeah, and Steve, you're contradicting yourself again. So am I? Can I voice my criticism now or not? Because if I do voice my criticism, which you say I can, you will call me a crybaby for complaining that the thing that there is shit, and you will call me entitled for not liking the thing as it is and wanting it different. Because you say I have to accept the thing as it is because that's the creator's choice.
But
I just can't decide whether I consume or don't.
Yeah, your criticism has to be a certain way. You can't do it your way. You have to do it my way. For whatever
Steve,
reason.
you became what you argued against during your atheism days, and I hope one day you can realize that.
Okay. Here's GAW004. Thank you, sir, for the super chat. Fans gave feedback and got many changes to the Dead Space remake. Have to wait and see how it turns out. Shives would probably call them entitled. Well, what?
Mm-hmm.
No, Steve would be like, well, it's software. You could change things and update it later. It's like, yeah, you could do that with films too.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
All right, one more donation and we'll finish off this film, or this video rather. Steve Shives' wife's boyfriend. Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Hi.
Please, Spud, my immortal. What is this? Amateur hour? I don't know too many fanfic.net stories, sorry. If you want primo fanfic content, read Not Even the Whole Fox. Read one single chapter of Sonic High School.
Oh, God, no.
Alice, My Immortal seemed like Crime and Punishment in comparison. Is that easy compared to the others? Okay.
Look, the moment Sonic or Pokemon are involved, it will be /fic with humans.
Yeah, you're probably right. On fanfic, yeah, you're probably right.
So that is automatically worse. It's obvious. But
okay. All right.
We are trying to judge that outside of those scenes.
Well, we use in My Immortal for that weird flavor of Mary Sue that's pretty rare, which is like the everything Sue. It's just everything happens. It's always perfect. She's amazing. She does everything that a Mary Sue would do.
You can't even write that well. It just can't be a self-insert. You can write that as the Overlord type character.
Oh, really? Okay.
Where it just gets more and more amazing and over the top and extreme, like Dragon Ball fights. Everything just gets more absurd. When you do that deliberately, then a character like the Everything Sue can work because it's entertaining still. Like the kind of character that just figures out the rules of the world and just starts abusing them. Then it's fun.
All right, one more.
Can be fun.
Let's finish this off.
We should all fact that artists don't owe it to us to make things we like.
Really?
Artists owe paying audiences the work they've paid to see.
What?
Artists don't owe audiences work that has been tailored to meet all of their demands.
Artists want to make money.
Art, that's sandwich art. So,
what?
If you saw the new Halloween movie or the Star Wars sequels or one of the new Star Trek shows or a discussion at the 92nd Street Y or last week's episode of WWE Monday Night Raw or AEW Dynamite or anything else and you didn't like it, great. You're allowed not to like it. Express yourself. Complain. Cry and moan about it until you pass out on your keyboard from sheer exhaustion. But instead of starting a petition or sending a pissy email or tweeting a demand that the creators erase the offending work and do it again, only this time more to your satisfaction, do yourself and everyone else a favor and just watch something else.
But
I want to watch Star Wars, and these people didn't give me Star Wars. They gave me their bullshit propaganda crap shit that they pretend is Star Wars.
Don't complain,
Steve. That's the fucking problem.
Yeah, complain, but not in the way I say to. Like what? Why? Why can't we say, hey, you know what, CBS or whatever it makes whatever show.
Steve, sane people don't want subjectivist, subversive, postmodernist, communist propaganda in all of their movies and series. They want the actual shit, not the rainbow diarrhea. That's crap. Like if you want that, fine. But that's a niche.
One of the arguments in TLJ was there was not one lightsaber fight. Like no two lightsabers hit each other. Which is one of the reasons why we watch Star Wars.
That's the least problem of that shit.
But this is basic surface level stuff. It's like, okay, does it have lightsaber battles? Does it have force battles? Does it have spaceship battles?
Yeah, the only time they hit each other is the flashback scene.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, you're right.
Fucking
stuff that will make you laugh or cry, stuff that will thrill you or scare you or make you think.
Dude,
but it becomes so rare since all your social justice crap is now everywhere. That's why I am so bloody glad about this amazing movie that just came out of Puss in Boots. The new Puss in Boots movie. Bloody hell, that is an amazing piece of work. Go watch it. If it's still running in your cinema around the corner, go watch it. It's amazing.
All right.
And if you have kids, take them with you, definitely. That movie is beautiful.
We are done with Steve. I think he's just bitching for no reason now. Let's go to the wonderful memes.
Dead brain.
What do we got? I sentenced you to 6 hours of listening to Skylar White sing Happy Birthday to Ted Beneke. This is above my understanding.
That's a Breaking Bad reference.
I thought that was Skylar White, but I don't know who Ted Beneke is.
That's her boss.
Oh.
For a time, I think.
There's our wonderful screen cap of Steve. Thank you.
Oh dear.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
Go to bed. I'm not going to play that.
It's a WWE reference.
No, I was supposed to make BreadTube videos and jerk off to Lily inside after the revolution. Why does it look like Vosh? Oh, dear. Lesbians when
you don't work, you don't get to eat.
Lesbians when Morbians walk in? What's a Morbian?
I don't know.
People who watch Morbius, maybe.
Someone I don't know.
It's Morbid. Okay. Leave the scene after spreading misinformation. Okay. That is the strangest looking. Is that a claymation?
Looks horrible.
I don't know.
I don't know. It looks like Indian 3D animation.
It has blue hair.
That's so.
I thought since we were supposed to be talking about fan service, I am honestly surprised he did not for once mention ecchi.
Well, he didn't even talk about what it was. He didn't define the term. He's like, dude, where are you going with this? It's like, oh, it's just whatever the fans want. Like, that's so generic.
Whatever the fans want, like a cameo. Yeah, it's whatever.
Here is me when Emily, they, them, some flag 13 Gemini 2, BLM.
That's the twins.
What? Oh, right. Eat the Rich, ACAB, Defund the Police. What the hell? Something Rainbow. Heart comments, this isn't funny, my guy, on my post. What? My guy. Is that a California thing, my guy? I've been hearing that last.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard that when I was growing up. Must be like a recent few years.
I think it's a really condescending way to talk to someone.
My guy.
Hey, my guy.
I'm not your guy. How dare you even assume I'm a guy?
Oops. Anyway, that was I'm gonna say a bad video, but at the same time, I'm like, well, he had a point. He just didn't know how to explain himself, which is silly. And he's complaining that you're complaining improperly, which is retarded. There's nothing wrong with making a petition saying I hate a thing, or I like a thing, or I want something changed. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you have every right to do that and express yourself. It doesn't matter if it amounts to anything. You're just making people aware of a thing, which I think was rather important when we talk about how bad something is, like season 10 of Game of Thrones. I think that's one way to measure.
Season 8, that was, yeah.
Yeah, it's one way to measure just how bad something is that's so popular. And can you imagine, like, I don't even know what the hell Martin was doing from, well, I don't know when the show went bad, but like certain seasons were like I heard were horrible. Like, what was he up to? If you have the creator of a show and he's like sitting with you and he's like, here is my book, just read it and do what's in the book. That's all you have to do.
We don't want to read. We would have to admit that we can't read.
Well,
Reading is
But he was too
hard.
busy bitching about Lord of the Rings on the internet forum or something.
Oh boy. Anyway, guys, that was Steve Shives. Another
Still alive somehow.
strange take on his. I don't know. That was. It would take like a good 5, maybe 10-minute conversation with this fellow and say, "Hey, everyone has the right to say what they want, and there's nothing wrong with asking for things to be changed." We got that. We even got that with BioWare, believe it or not, and they listened. They listened and gave a bad reaction.
They tried. They did
They did try. They made an extended cut, which made things worse, but they at least, they cut off your leg and used the material from the leg to patch up some of the holes in your brain. Like, it's like, okay.
They tried.
Yeah, exactly.
They should have given like a new color.
Yeah.
To the endings. Like yellow.
And you could argue
It's the
that
fault.
the Citadel
that counts.
the Citadel DLC was just one giant fan service, and pretty much that's what it was. Which again did not fix the problem, but it made people happy, which again is better than nothing. So
It's the fault that counts.
yeah.
For the case of Star Wars, like, where can it go forward? Like, seriously, like, there's no way that it can go forward. They have single-handedly killed the franchise.
Video games. They still work. Video games are pretty good.
Yeah, well, like, they're supposed to be making a movie in a year from now. Like, there's gonna be a trailer coming out this year for the next movie in the 10th Star Wars movie, technically, chronologically, or whatever anymore. I just don't know like what the story's gonna be about, because like they're gonna have a clean slate, and they can't make a story about something that they are writing from like the previous experiences, because they always use like some kind of callback or legacy character, but they don't have any of those anymore.
Had they continued with the expanded universe things, then they would have paths to go, paths to treat. But they ditched that and just closed Star Wars off.
Yeah, well, it's just like nobody really cares about Star Wars that much anymore. Like, it's just, it doesn't get traction anymore. There was Andor, supposedly like a good show, and it just didn't get the numbers. People don't fucking care about Star Wars. Like, they have fatigue now, kind of with Marvel movies, thankfully.
I don't know. I don't like the term fatigue. What I think is up is that the expectation that there is a good Star Wars film, screen thing possible is just dead. The expectation the good expectation is dead. The goodwill is dead. Why spend money and or time on something that you expect to be bad? They have to build that up from scratch again, about a franchise, about a brand that should have been unkillable. And they still haven't fired the person responsible.
She's gonna retire after Indiana Jones.
Yeah, retire. Retire as on her CEO seat.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what we're doing tomorrow. Perhaps a game night, or we had to do a Smud Talk. Not sure, but keep the voting going. Keep the suggestions coming in. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Hopefully, probably tomorrow. So, talk to you later. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.